Welcome to Bunny Trails, a whimsical adventure of idioms and other turns of phrase. I'm Dan Pugh.
And I'm Shauna Harrison. Each week, we take an idiom or other turn of phrase and try to tell the story from its entry into the English language to how it's used today. Are you ever having a conversation with someone and they just take the joke too far?
That's my whole life.
Or
but
maybe...
it's me. I'm the one who takes the joke too far, always.
Maybe they take it way, way too far.
Yep, that's me.
Some call this behavior going beyond the pale.
Oh, interesting. I have heard this phrase before, and I quite literally did not know what it meant until we started doing this show. And I don't use this phrase. It's not one that's ever been in my lexicon. So I'm really excited to learn more about it and where it comes from.
Awesome. Well, according to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, beyond the pale means, quote, offensive or unacceptable, end quote.
Context clues now mean a lot. Sure. All right. Fair.
To truly understand beyond the pale, we first need to understand what a pale actually was. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, the word traces its roots to both the Latin palus and Old French pale, both meaning a stake or post. This is like a sharpened piece of wood to drive into the ground, that kind of stake.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. The OED cites the earliest known English use of the noun pale from before 1382 in an early version of the Wycliffe Bible.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
In its earliest sense, a pale referred quite literally to that wooden stake. Over time, the word expanded to mean a fence made from those stakes, and eventually the boundary or enclosed territory that the fence defined.
Okay.
Yeah. So many sources, including Susie Dent in her 2024 book, Interesting Stories About Curious Words, describe this progression from stake to fence to enclosed space. And from there, pale developed a broader sense of a bounded area or limit. With this context, it becomes a little bit easier to see how the phrase beyond the pale could develop naturally, meaning to step outside an accepted boundary. Over time, the physical idea of a boundary was extended into a social one, describing behavior that fell outside of accepted norms.
Okay, so I'm trying to imagine this fence that might be created with this. Is the spiky end down or the spiky end up?
Both.
Oh,
so, yeah, if you think of like even the barricades that are used to just stop people from going through an area, that could have been referred to as a pale as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So it really doesn't matter which way the spikes are for the usage.
Not for this.
Okay, gotcha. Well, it mattered to the picture I was painting in my mind.
Gotcha. Okay.
So now I have every other one. One of them's upright and one of them's down in the ground. Don't ask me how they got it in the ground, actually, now that I'm like, oh, we just, hammered the blunt end down? No, obviously the spiky end was down, or they were both spiky ends. Okay, anyway, None of this is relevant.
If you're thinking long enough ago, too, it was just like, it was literally a stick or like a limb,
right,
that just was sharpened at one end. It wasn't even like that complicated, So... okay, this wasn't just an abstract concept. Across Europe during what is sometimes called the High and Late Middle Ages, roughly 1100 to 1500 CE, pales were used to describe various kinds of controlled or fortified territories, borderlands where authority, law, or influence was clearly defined.
I should note, because pale in English, there are several words that are spelled differently that sound just like that. And if you're not looking at your podcast app right now, it is Beyond the Pale, P-A-L-E.
Michael Thomas Kinsella notes in his 2024 Mental Floss article, Where Does the Phrase Beyond the Pale Come From?, that this usage wasn't unique to one place. The idea of a pale as a defined zone of control appeared in several regions of Europe during this time, including Calais in northern France, the English-controlled pale in Ireland, and later administrative pales used elsewhere. One of the most well-known of these was in Ireland. The Pale was the region around Dublin that remained under English control, separated from the surrounding countryside by boundaries, ditches, and defensive earthworks. Inside the Pale, English law and customs held sway, but beyond it lay Gaelic Irish territory outside that system of control. So to go beyond the Pale, quite literally, was to step outside the protection and authority of that governed space.
Well, protection, I mean, I guess that That depends on who you are.
Depends on his. They didn't say
I'd
your
say,
protection.
yeah, it depends definitely on which side of that fence you are usually from.
England is protected here. So that's what that meant.
Right.
An early usage of the phrase is found in the 1651 work, The Rare Jewel of Christian Contentment by Jeremiah Burroughs. Here's an excerpt. Quote, God provides for them, but if they will go beyond the pale, if they will pass their bounds, then they may expect to meet with troubles and afflictions and discontent. And therefore, that is a fourth direction. Walk by rule. End quote.
Mm.
So, this work lists a series of directions and contemplations on contentment in the context of Christianity. Here, the phrase is referring to leaving the bounds of what is generally considered acceptable for Christian behavior.
Also, something that has changed drastically over the years.
Yes. We do find examples of the phrase being used in the literal sense, or at least in reference to lands and territories, as in this excerpt from the Scots Magazine, published in 1751. Quote, these priests enjoyed this extraordinary privilege among the Celtic nations, who lay beyond the pale of the Roman Empire. It was in the beginning of the 2nd century that their power among the Caledonians began to decline. End quote. So here, beyond the pale is still functioning quite literally, describing groups understood to lie outside the boundaries of that Roman authority. In the March 1st, 1900 edition of the Ranch and Range out of North Yakima, Washington, the phrase was used in an ad. Quote, the 20th century Alpha de Laval machines are the very acme of perfection in cream separators, embodying the new and perfected development of the alpha disc principle. The creamery man or dairyman who has not examined or used a 20th century disc machine sufficiently to understand the scope and importance of the new improvements has yet to learn the merits and virtues of the up-to-date separator. In a word, the 20th century Alpha machine in any of its sizes is simply beyond the pale of comparison with anything else that natural force and human ingenuity has yet devised in the shape of a cream separator. It stands in a class by itself, far above and beyond all possible competition. End quote. It's got Acme and Alpha.
No, you said Acme, and I immediately started giggling, and I was just like, don't interrupt, don't interrupt, don't interrupt. But like, that is Acme and Nimrod are two of my favorite words, because like those are words that meant a certain thing. Like Acme is the peak of performance. That's a good thing, right? But because of Looney Tunes, and specifically you think of Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner in the Looney Tunes of the 1900s, everything was titled Acme, the Acme products, and it was meant to show that they were top of the line, but for entire generations of kids growing up thinking Acme brand is the worst, because they almost always failed, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's hilarious, because Acme is is something that now anytime I hear it, I immediately think even though it is supposed to mean the top. Nimrod is the same way. Nimrod's supposed to be a strong hunter, like that's a good thing, right? That's a compliment. But Bugs Bunny used to use it to refer to Elmer Fudd and call him a Nimrod, and so now Nimrod means an idiot, when it used to mean a strong hunter.
Right.
It was good to be a Nimrod. Now you don't want to be a Nimrod. It's amazing how
So
we can
funny.
change, one media can change the whole
Changes
way
the
we view
concept.
something. But
Yeah.
yeah, so anyway, sorry, my little side thing about Acme, but yeah, Acme of perfection and cream separators, I guess. All right,
Yeah.
cool.
But they didn't say cream of the crop.
No, that's true. That's a good point.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, we won't be doing that one, but that's an interesting one. Maybe we'll look it up. On a side note, we can encourage you to do the same.
So, so in that one, though, obviously, beyond the pale is not being used to judge behavior at all, but it's emphasizing the comparison, that way of saying that the product stands so far above everything else that it can't even be measured on the same scale.
So in this one, we still see it being used not necessarily to mean offensive, right, or out of bounds necessarily, problematically. We're still seeing it be used here to just mean outside of parameters, right?
Right,
Because
it
this is a good thing
stands-
that it's so far outside
Right.
of what you would think, outside the boundaries.
Yeah. The El Paso Herald out of Texas shared a full-page ad in their October 24th, 1917 home edition titled, "What Will Your Children Think?" Here's an excerpt. Quote, "Surely if you do not heed your country's call now in its hour of need, you will not have the face to continue living here, to eat the bread that's grown on free American soil, to enjoy the countless blessings that free America gives, but will feel that you're beyond the pale of freedom and civilization, friendless, shunned, alone, condemned by your own conscience, and as an outcast. For every man who is entitled to the name American, every man who is entitled to the respect of his fellow men, is either going to the front to fight or putting every dollar he can spare into Liberty bonds. Have you bought your bond?" End quote.
Wowzers. Okay. There's a lot to unpack there, and we're just not gonna.
Right. So what stands out here is how Beyond the Pale is being used to draw a kind of moral boundary. It's very extreme. It's not just about behavior. It's about belonging. Who
Yeah,
counts
which
as
is
part
much
of
stronger.
Yeah, who counts as part of civilization and who doesn't. And in a wartime ad like this, that kind of language becomes a tool of persuasion just as
Propaganda.
much as description.
Yeah.
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 Uh,
Persuasion's probably too kind a word, I think.
yeah. So this is not the last time it was used to denote a moral boundary. We're going to take a look at a 1948 discussion on free speech in our behind the scenes video, which airs on our Patreon. That's patreon.com/bunnytrailspod. The next reference comes from the December 2nd, 1956 edition of the Evening Star out of Washington, D.C. This is in a story being told of a man who thought he was meeting with a woman named Madeline for an innocent purpose. However, she reads back the note he'd left, in which he calls her darling, something that seems to have been added after he left the note.
Hmm.
Quote, "She folded her faultlessly manicured hands over her bosom, where the note was, and said, 'Charles, this isn't like you at all.' He thought of Helen, for whom he was doing all this, and was fortified. He proceeded to do something so outrageously beyond the pale that Madeline didn't even scream. Still carrying his hostess by the ankles, he walked through the French doors, braced himself at the parapet, swung her over, and let her hang there, 25 stories above the street." End quote.
Okay, that's a weird Batman moment, but whoa. Well, this goes hard. This is not what I expected to. Wow.
Yeah. So just before this, he demanded the note back, and she wouldn't give it to him. So he did that same thing, but just in front of him in the room, and she just refused. And so then, he,
I
I guess,
see.
decided over the parapet was the way to go.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, he doesn't drop her, but he does get an idea for the project he's working on and immediately calls Helen to tell her to write down pendulum as plummet and that he'll finish it when he gets back.
Okay. All right.
So here,
Wowzer. I have so little context to whatever's going on here, but I mean, it's clear how the phrase is being used, I guess.
here beyond the pale is being used as a marker of the intensity of things rather than a boundary in any literal sense. It indicates that the character's actions have crossed into something extreme, shocking, and exaggerated.
Yeah, offensive,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
as it is used today, according to Merriam-Webster.
Yeah. So up next, we have several modern uses to cover, and we'll get to those right after we say thank you to our sponsors.
Well, Bunny Trails, a word history podcast, has been brought to you by our amazing patrons.
We want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has supported the show over the years, including Heather, Dustin, Cheryl, Adseptic, Charlie, Jill, Erica, Chris, Alan, Donna, and Ernest. Plus, a very special thanks to some of our higher tiers, including Jan and Emily, as well as Pat Rowe and JGP. And of course, thank you to our top spot, Mary Halsick Lopez.
You can find tons of content from the show's 9 seasons on Patreon at patreon.com/bunnytrailspod. We also have links to the episodes and transcripts or show notes for each episode on our forever home, bunnytrailspod.com.
The 1989 film Beyond the Pale follows two undocumented Irish immigrants in New York as they try to build new lives while navigating survival, ambition, and the city's more dangerous edges. Here's the beginning of the summary. Quote, In 1989, two Irishmen, Patrick Shaw and Seamus O'Sullivan, arrive in New York, brimming with youthful energy and the kind of fearlessness that comes with being new to the world and with nothing to lose. Illegal immigrants with no papers, no rights, and no safety net. They dive into the city's chaos headfirst, believing that fate and fortune are waiting to be seized. End quote. So it's an interesting look into the experience of two individuals and a sort of play on words for the phrase beyond the pale.
Yeah.
Beyond the Pale is a track from Machine Head's 2017 album, Catharsis. Here are some of the lyrics. Quote, I am skin and bones, broken stones. See the scars that I show. I live outside the bounds in the unknown. I can't ingratiate to the hate, 'cause their world suffocates. Carve my own path and form my destiny's shape. This storm won't wait. The rain is falling down upon me. Beyond the pale, I found salvation, emancipation. Beyond the pale, I found my heroes, the freaks and zeros. End quote.
I love how rhymey it is.
There you go.
Good job, Machine Head.
In this song, Beyond the Pale becomes like a statement. It's discussing belonging outside of expected norms and limits, and it's really good. Beyond the Pale, number 4, is an acrylic painting on canvas by Jeffrey Davies Bricker, created in 2025. Here's a little of what he had to say about the work. Quote, I love painting different styles and directions at times, vivid and bold color with a harder edge, and then loose and brilliant. Please don't make me do the same painting over and over to establish a personal style. I am different and I want to celebrate that. My direction and feelings are about the same when I'm working. I want to create. Is that a pretentious word? Art that I want to create and may appeal to another human and be fulfilling to me. Actually, very simple. I don't want to make it seem more important than it actually is. Simply art. End quote.
Okay.
So this one is full abstract. It's colorful and bold. It's the kind of piece I can imagine people might look at for a few minutes or really take their time looking at all of the different lines and shapes and colors and how everything kind of moves around together.
I will represent the non-art crowd. It makes no sense whatsoever. I don't understand anything about it. That's it.
Abstract.
Well, sure, but at least there's a lot of times I can look at abstract artwork and see a pattern or something. This thing's got there's a grape in there. Mm-hmm. If you were to tell me that this was a slide from a high school histology class where you're looking through microscopes at cells, and if you were like, this is a muscle cell, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Whatever. Fine.
I like it. It's great. Beyond the Pale is a comic book series published by Dark Horse Comics. It was written by Christopher Imgard and features art by Thomas Ara, the team that created The Whispering Dark and The Secret Land. Here's the synopsis of the work. Quote, War correspondent Hedda Sawyer is looking into the disproportional loss of black GIs in the Vietnam War, where an unknowable evil awaits her in the jungle. Leads say losses are especially high at fire-based Tartarus, with most of them simply gone missing, their fate unknown. Something sinister is happening at Tartarus, and the deeper Hedda digs, the more she finds herself spiraling into madness. End quote.
Interesting.
Very cool. It's really good. Has really impressive artwork too.
Yeah. Well, Dark Horse Comics, tend to be, as far as those graphic novel stylings, they are generally very good.
Yes. Yeah. Beyond the Pale is a music festival held in Ireland. This year's event was just held a couple of weeks ago. Here's some information about it from their website. Quote, 3 days of music, arts, and foods in the wild woodlands and stunning surroundings of Glendalough Estate, County Wicklow. Step into the woods, lakes, and open skies of Wicklow's Glendalough Estate for the return of Beyond the Pale. 3 days of music, art, food, and wellness where boutique luxury meets festival adventure. Lose yourself in outstanding music for music lovers, from international talent, homegrown favorites, and breakthrough artists. Add late-night beats, chef pop-ups, craft cocktails, hot saunas, cold dips, morning yoga, and forest foraging for the ultimate weekend with friends, end quote.
Yeah, I'd probably do that once at least to see if I like it. But like all of this sounds cool.
Yeah, this festival looks kind of incredible. Like looking through the photos and videos from the event, it really is held in the middle of a forest. I would absolutely go. And
Yeah.
I love the use of the phrase for that.
Yeah. No, yep, definitely. Definitely.
Beyond the Pale Brewing Company shares on their website, quote, brewing beers for locals in the heart of Ottawa since 2012. Visit our spacious tap room and patio, perfect for enjoying one of 16 beautifully crafted beers poured on tap, end quote.
This is Ottawa, Canada, huh?
Yeah, they have
Nice.
beers, merchandise from shirts to home kegs,
Oh,
and they also have
interesting.
venues available. So it looks like an interesting place.
Yeah, I like the idea of home kegs. Like, you could. I assume that you could get like a pony keg or something for your little what do they call those kegerators, where it's
Yeah,
basically it's a little refrigerator that's been modified and you put the keg in the refrigerator and there's just a tap on top.
right.
I see that there's a local brewery in the small town that several of our friends live in, and we do a third Thursday event and at the park, and so the local brewery will have one of those little things. They'll wheel it out, and then plug it in basically, and have it, be able to sell some stuff on tap because they've got this small, tiny little, home keg, a pony keg, that's there, and yeah, you just go and get it during the event, and just go get a locally brewed beer on tap if beer is your thing. It's not mine, but yeah, I mean, it's good to have it. It's cool to,
Yeah,
to have it. I don't
and
drink a lot of beer,
people
but
like that. You know, it's their thing. So
yeah, no, I like it. I think it's really cool to be able to have craftspersons in different ways be able to sell their wares, whether that's or share their wares, whether they're selling it or whatever. But yeah, so I love that kind of stuff. I think maybe Beyond the Pale Brewing Company needs to travel to the music festival in Ireland.
yeah, there you go. So, what I like about the phrase beyond the pale is how it keeps shifting. It starts as something physical, becomes something social, and then just becomes language we use to describe limits of all kinds, sometimes real, sometimes implied, sometimes just convenient. And we still use it without really thinking about any of that. It's a fairly conceptual phrase, which is why it ends up applying to all sorts of situations. I like that it's kind of a chameleon phrase, that it still sounds a bit out of date, almost whimsical or eerie. That's about all we have for today. If you have any thoughts on the show or pop culture references we should have included, reach out to us on Patreon, patreon.com/bunnytrailspod, or comment on our website, bunnytrailspod.com.
It is poll time. Recently, we asked our patrons, what speed do you listen to spoken word works like podcasts or audiobooks? Mary said, quote, podcasts are always at 1.0 for me. The interactions feel completely different to me than narration. For audiobooks, it depends on the narrator, their pace, their pitch, and inflections, as well as how anxious I am to learn about what happens next. So those vary from 1.0 to 1.5. Textbooks are almost always at 1.5, but if I can get away with 2.0 and still comprehend, I'll do it. It's a matter of relish versus imperative, end quote. That's a really, Mary, what a great description. And I've never listened to the audiobook version of a textbook. Like, I know Mary's not in college anymore. Mary's got like all of the degrees, right? And so she's probably doing it to just for learning's sake or for her work. But when I was in college, which was the last time I looked at a textbook, we did not have audiobooks of our textbooks. So
Fair, yeah. I actually really loved that my professors have like recorded um lectures
yeah.
because then I can just speed up.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you just speed up their thing. Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah. Well, Cheryl added, quote, slightly sped up, usually 1.2, unless I'm having trouble understanding the voice. Mostly, it's just to get through them faster. I'm always so far behind in my listening, end quote.
Feel that.
Yeah, I'd get that too. I treat audiobooks and podcasts differently. And I think it's about what the pacing is for the whatever's been recorded. So for podcast, I listen usually at the default speed since most podcasts are recorded at the speed the host would normally talk. For audiobooks, however, the narrators slow things down to ensure everything is clear and understood. So for audiobooks, I almost always listen to them at least 1.25 speed. The only exception is when I'm really familiar with whoever is narrating. So like if it's Will Wheaton or Luke Daniels or David Sedaris, somebody like that, then I have to listen at 1.0, the default, or their voice is just odd enough that it actually becomes a distraction in and of itself to me. So I can't really speed up if I'm very familiar with the narrator, then I can't really speed it up. But if they're, I just can't generally listen to most books. At
Yeah.
1.0, I'm just like, let's get a move on.
Get it going. JGP said, quote, "It depends on the podcast for me. Some people speak in this sort of slower, deliberate manner with careful, distinct enunciation that's very clear to listen to. But I often find I need to up it to a slightly above normal speed, 1.1 or 1.2, or my mind wanders while I'm listening, especially if I'm doing chores or crafts at the same time." End quote.
Yes, JGP, that's exactly it. Thank you for doing a better job of explaining it. I'll just get lost in it. It's like, let's go.
Yeah. Jan shared, quote, "Normal speed. There's too much going on when I'm driving to try to understand fast speaking. If I'm in the mood for that, I'll just go to an auction."
That's fair.
So,
Well, I don't want to listen to it that fast, Jan.
yeah, I think I would enjoy the auction because I listen to almost everything at 2 times speed and like nobody else said that. Sometimes a little faster than that. In fact, they only recently added like higher than 2 times speed to some of the listening apps, and I was excited. When I listen at normal speed, it's like I'm on edge waiting for them to say the next thing so I can like get the whole thought, and it's basically torture.
Yeah, I've definitely I used to sometimes we'd have customers that came in when I was in an office, and customers that came in that had low vision or no vision, and so they would, when they'd call like an Uber or something like that, you could hear their stuff, right, because it speaks to them on their phone when they're going through the app, and that stuff goes so fast I couldn't even track it, but obviously when you have to listen to things, like I can read so much faster than I could speak aloud, right? And so for someone with low sight or no sight, then they want, they want to be able to move in the world at the same speed that I would move in the world, which makes total sense. So I would hear so many of them, basically like requesting an Uber on the app, and it would talk to them throughout the whole process, and it was just so fast that I literally couldn't comprehend what was being said sometimes.
Right.
So yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
But some people can just whether through training their brain to do that, or whatever the reason, naturally or whatever, that some folks can make that happen, and more power to them. I will say this: I'm glad that there is a slider bar so I can choose what speed to listen to, because sometimes I do want it faster, sometimes I do not. I can honestly say I've never slowed it down.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever made anything slower than 1 time speed.
No, although if anyone listened to one of my lectures, you might. That's possible. But I
Yeah.
generally don't record my lectures.
I didn't even think about that. I know I talk fast. I have to consciously slow myself down.
Same.
But from this standpoint, I don't experience this in person where like it doesn't bother me if somebody just talks slow. And I think it's just because like the interaction is different than
Sure.
listening to like a digital platform or something.
Yeah, it's fair.
Well, thanks to everyone who took part in our silly poll. It's always fun to hear what others think. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again next week. Until then, remember,
Words belong to their users.